So now that we've built out our basic structure of our website, so we can see that it resizes and the menu moves around and everything looks fairly good. So now I can remove out all of those borders that I had earlier, that we were using earlier, and I can get rid of some of this, these colors that we've been using for the styling in order to make it look a little bit better. So maybe what I want to do is just simply remove that out, and we can always bring that back if we need to, if we want to add in more to our design. One of the things when you're designing your website, it's always a good idea to use like grayscale colors. So maybe instead of having this bright red, orange, and beige, we want to update those to be more of a grayish color. So much similar to what we're doing over here. So I'm going to get rid of the primary. I'm going to just update that to be white, because most of the time you want your main content to be on a white with black text. So update that to gray, and then maybe our footer, or maybe do our footer really dark, do a black background and a white text. So instead of that, black, and we'll do our text, change that to white so it stands out. Maybe we want to even have a minimum height. So maybe a minimum height of 200 pixels. Or that might be a little bit too much, so 100 pixels. We'll add in some padding for the text, so maybe 45 pixels for padding. So it's nice and centered there, and it gives us a little bit of space. So I'm going to bring this one down as well. So we can see it here on the left-hand side, how it's getting presented. So also want to get rid of this default blue on the nav. And maybe just add in more of a grayscale again. So this will give us a better idea of the colors that we want to use before we're actually presenting the colors, and maybe this is good. So we know that we want to have a light color, and whenever we hover over it, a darker color, and we want to flip the font colors. So maybe another thing by default, we want to get rid of that default of blue, and maybe even just do black for now. And maybe update the font weight to be bold. So this will give the font a little bit more, so it stands out a little bit better. And also want to jump over to the header and update that as well, so that we have a background color to be able to differentiate our header. So maybe a lighter color for the heading background. And this is a color that's going to apply to that entire selection. So sometimes you might want to split those out. Instead of having them in the media queries, you might want to have the different colors, the default colors that you're going to use right within this top part, and maybe even create a separate section for colors. So for this part, I'm just going to do header, and I'm going to add in a background color there. And we'll do a background color of keeping it within this grayscale. And we also maybe want to add in a border color as well. And maybe we can do this as black. And now we notice that these navigation items, so whenever we resize, then we're okay. But because we've got this header color here, so this is actually throwing it off. So we need to make an update to this as well. So let's update our header. And I'm going to float the header by default. So this is the entire header area. I'm going to float it over to the left. I'm going to give it a width of 100%, so it moves back totally across, and now we can see that it's grabbed in that navigation part. So now whenever I refresh it, we can see that we've got this, so So it looks a lot better, but we're still having a few issues here on the sizing, so we need to update some of those margins and paddings in order to better accommodate it. So let's try adding in a margin. So this is the shorthand margins. So we're going to add in a margin here at the bottom of maybe 30 pixels, or maybe we can even do 40 and 0. So that takes care of some of that overlap that we were seeing. Maybe we need to do a little bit more there. So maybe even add in some padding around it. So maybe if we want to have padding at the top, so only at the top, we'll do 10 pixels padding at the top. And that should help out a little bit with when we were doing the resizing here, so that it's not hanging over there. And we still have a problem here whenever we shrink it down. So maybe whenever we shrink it down, we want to add in something different happening with the navigation bars. So maybe we want to start out with the header nav, and we want to maybe even do a background color. So one of the problems with doing that is that, let's see how this looks on the other screen. So pop this over, refresh, and we can see that now we've got this background there. So it's only appearing on the larger sizes. So I think I put it in the wrong spot there. So let's take a look at this and refresh that. So I think there's the problem there with the styling. I'm going to use line height over here to specify, maybe we can do 60 pixels or something like that to specify the line height. So let's take a look and see what this looks like now. So everything looks good, except when we shrink it down to the smallest size, that we still have this overlap on this. So there's a few things that we can do here to update and change this. So we've got where we're adding in that padding. So maybe we want to get rid of that padding that we've got over here and really cut that down and not utilize it within that same way. So if I got rid of the padding, and I'm going to bring the padding over into, maybe into this one here. So now whenever we get it bigger, so this should bring our padding back. So let's see what's happening here. I put it into the wrong one here. So let's try it here, save. Open up our website and let's just check out what it looks like now. So whenever we shrink it down, so we got rid of that padding, so we need to add in probably a little bit of padding there. So now we've got a clear menu there whenever we get it even bigger. So now we've got a clearly defined menu area. So it looks more like what we had originally planned out, where we've got this kind of background. Of course, we can get rid of that black background if we want as well, and only show it on the resize. And one other area we need to fix is just that default padding, because I had removed it from here, but it looks like we still need to have a little bit of padding there within those anchors. So let's do something like, we'll do 5 and we'll do 10 and see what this looks like. So on the smaller screens, whenever we resize it, so now we still have more of a menu type format here. We shrink it down, let's take a look, and we still have a little bit of an overhang. So this is where we could add in a margin bottom. So add in a margin at the bottom, maybe 10 pixels, and that should take care of any of that overhang that we had there earlier. So now let's go back out to this one, refresh it. And now we see we've got a nice, neatly presented menu there. We've got everything resizing properly, and now it's more of a grayscale area. So in the next lesson, we're going to continue to build this out, and we're going to build out how we can utilize this when we've got multiple pages. So we've got, right now, we've got our main home page. There's nothing in the menu that indicates that this is the selected area. So I'm going to show you how to do that, to add a selected class for the selected item and some other tricks in order to better present our website. So that's coming up in the next lesson.